Start streaming. You fixing your...
Always. What little I have. It's wispy.
You're on.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Parker, and this is Kristen Ishihara. We're at the Ishihara and Parker Law Firm here in Longview, Texas. And today our topic is going to be talking about common senior scams, common issues preying upon our seniors, and some of the possible solutions for them. Kristen, where are we at on our scams and seniors? Big, small problem, what are we doing?
Sure. So we just wanted to talk about common scams that we see that it's typically kids that would come in and talk to us about, maybe parents that are getting scammed, because a lot of times the individual that's getting scammed doesn't realize it. So I wanted to talk about the most common ones. We're primarily going to talk about East Texas, but these really apply anywhere. And then if there are some things that you could do to help look out for those things, what those are. But let's start first with an imposter scam. So what kind of things, what would that look like? So if I were the victim of an imposter scam, and this actually could apply to all sorts of ages because we get all sorts of scams, right? So we're all subject to this with an imposter, an email from a prince, is the old one. They're getting a whole lot more sophisticated these days. So you don't have to be a senior to get scammed by this kind of scam, but an imposter scam, what does that look like?
Yeah, so imposter scams can be broken up into a lot of different categories. You could be talking about ones pretending to be government officials, those pretending to be separate businesses you might have relationships with, and those that might be family members. One of the ones that I've seen more often is that criminals are getting crafty. They're going to the court records. They're finding out who has court cases, what family members are involved. Maybe there's been subpoenas. They make a phone call. Hey, this is Joe Smith. I'm a deputy with the 188th District Court. We noticed that you did not come to your hearing on this date and you were subpoenaed as a witness. There's now a warrant out for your arrest unless you were to send $500, $1,000, wire it through.
That we know this one is happening in Gregg County.
Absolutely has happened. Absolutely some variation of that. You didn't show up for your jury summons. You didn't show up for court. You didn't show up for whatever. Very easy to find. All of this is public record. It has to be for the workings of the government. But then you have the crafty individuals tying it to you, and then...
Right. So the trick is they have enough truthful information that you get hooked. But then the second thing to be aware of, again, at any age, is they will not let you off the phone. Yeah. So what you individually need to know, as well as help educate usually a senior parent or relative or neighbor, is that you have to be able to get off the phone. If someone is reaching out to you, they're trying to fluster you. They're trying to get you to the bank and wire them money right now. Yep. They're trying to get your credit card over the phone. Do not provide information to someone that has called you in that scenario. Get off the phone and have a trusted person that you are not embarrassed to ask. A friend, a child, a whatever. Be self-aware enough to know that you need to ask someone else. But if they will not let you off the phone, you need to hang up immediately. That's a warning sign, and you need to get off the phone.
They just want you to act before someone can intervene and say, whoa, let's take a minute to think about it, because if you stop to think, you would put a stop to it.
Exactly.
So that's definitely, the other part of that is to gain your trust. They always give you some information that's true. Yep. Hey, you're Sally Smith, and you live at number 1 Smith Court. Right. Sure, but that doesn't mean I then need to say, oh, yes, my social security number is 45222. Don't verify.
And they might have the last 3.
Right. Yeah, exactly. A lot of this is public record. Don't give them the parts they don't have. So just because someone knows something about you does not mean they're from the government. Doesn't mean it's from, the sheriff's department, the Longview Police Department, the courthouse. Doesn't mean they're from the IRS. They're not from the federal government. That's not the way those agencies would operate. And if you have doubts, my favorite thing to do is, great. What agency you're from? Perfect. Let me hang up. I will look up the number for the agency. Don't take it from them.
Right.
I will look up the agency. I will call them directly, and then they will send me to that agent, Smith, that officer, deputy, and most likely that agency will say, whoa, that's not us. That's not the way we operate.
And for our seniors and for our parents, make sure and help invite them to ask you to help. Because even if they are looking up a number themselves, those criminals are smart criminals. Some of them have fake numbers online that you may Google, or other things that you can inadvertently get on through a bad link, through a bad number. So some of those things are online too. So if you can help educate your parent or senior that you're trying to help with, always ask me before divulging bank account information, social security information. Let's run this through some traps before we're just giving out that information. Some of those are going to be business imposters. I've had a family member who, clicked on a link, that thought it was a business and they're putting in information. And that could be a virus that gets on your computer when you click on things. That's why it's important, when you're utilizing your cell phone or your computer, especially again for our seniors that are maybe more susceptible to clicking on things and just giving information. Before you give any personal information, get a second set of eyes on it so you know who you're giving it to and it's the right person, right business, right whatever.
When we were in the process of buying a house, I 100% got a fake email from a fake title company. It looked like the title company we were using. It wanted me to call a number that was not the title company's number. And if I had called that number, the scammer would have answered. The scammer would have given me the wrong information, and I would have wired my money to the scammer. Luckily, of course, I knew ahead of time that was going to be a problem or a potential problem. Realtor already talked to me. I went to the title company. They said, that's absolutely fake. Do not follow them. So emails, very, very, very dangerous. The one I received looked perfect.
Yeah.
It just seemed odd, but it looked perfect. And so I did not call the number on the email that is fake. I went and looked it up on Google separate and called them on a separate phone.
Yep. One that gets a lot of seniors is a relative scam. So we can find out so much by looking at your Facebook, the names of your grandkids, where they're traveling because they tagged you, what they're eating for dinner. So all of that information is online to a criminal, and we think that they're not looking, but by golly, they are getting that public information that we're putting out for them.
Yeah.
So a lot of seniors will receive a call. Grandma, yes, Susie, I need $500. I'm in jail.
Yep.
We've created that
Yep.
scary energy, so we're going to go wire grandchild money because they're the only number that they remembered was ours. You need to step back, call Susie's mom, and say, hey, is this really happening?
That's good.
Always a second person needed to verify before you ever send money, before you ever give personal information, but don't allow a created emergency to make you do something that you know you shouldn't do. Get off the phone, check with another person that is a trusted person that you can ask that will know the answer.
And not to scare folks, but at this point, the AI tools have really made it that voice interpretation, whatever, they can copy your voice.
They're copying ours now.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It is not hard for grandma or grandpa to receive that call. And sometimes in the olden days, 2 years ago, they thought they heard Susie. Now they really are hearing Susie's voice saying these things. So I don't know if I have the solution. The only thing I can think of is have some sort of password the whole family knows. And if they don't know the password, hang up. You should always hang up, but hang up and call someone else. Because it's just sophisticated.
Always verify. If somebody is reaching out to you, we have to have a healthy level of skepticism that it may not be a good person. It may not be the person we think it is. So you need to verify by going somewhere else. Always verify yourself.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. In person. So we talked about our imposters, talked about the government. We talked about businesses. We talked about family.
Yep.
What's next?
Well, a good old romance scam. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, as we age and we lose a spouse, if we do not have adult kids near us, we don't have a Sunday school class that we see regularly, we can be really just lonely.
Yep.
I mean, just honestly lonely and very vulnerable to someone that might step in and try to take advantage of that loneliness. That could be in person. That could be online. That could be by phone. That could also, I've seen it happen by delusion. I mean, there can be a whole host of romance scams, and that is probably, at least for me personally, the one that I see the most with our seniors here in East Texas.
Yep, and I will say this, generally speaking, we know that women live longer than men, but when it comes to romance scam victims, the ones that I'm most aware of are the men. I mean, I don't know if that means anything. It might just be my selective bias, but there's been a few women, but most of the time, it is the surviving spouses who are being taken advantage of, either in person or online. You'd be surprised the pull that someone who sends a message on Facebook to an elderly person who's feeling lonely, they start a conversation, and after 5 or 6 messages, they think they're best friends. And they're sharing personal details, birthday dates, where they bank, suddenly if they have good investments, how they're feeling, where that money's at. It's amazing how good they are at sucking your relative in, and they'll message them all day.
And they may talk to them for
day.
hours at a time. They could be talking to them for 4 hours. I mean, this is a long-held relationship scam where they are building a relationship over days, weeks, months, years, and then they're asking for, I'm having this personal issue. Can you help me with it financially? I'm going to come visit you. Can you send me money so that I can get a ticket? This trip didn't work out, so we'll have to redo it. So you're building little by little the trust and the belief that this person is real, and you have a real relationship with you. They've probably told you that they love you. They've probably told you that they need financial help, that they need other things. There is definitely... and unfortunately, it's going to be one of those things that people find hard to share with their kids. So kids, you need to be involved enough, talking to mom and dad regularly, making sure that they have, if you aren't there in person regularly, that they have a network of neighbors, of Sunday school friends that they interact with regularly. Maybe you can schedule them to get picked up to continue going to Sunday school. Maybe you can schedule them to go weekly to a poker game. Well, poker, whatever. Something.
But do mom and dad really need a smartphone? I'm just saying, everyone has to make their own family decisions, but those suckers are dangerous, and the scammers are so sophisticated. So we talked about, they're reaching them on Facebook, they're reaching them on the different messaging platforms, they're becoming their friends digitally. I mean, I've seen the senior scam, and the ones I saw were a scam. They physically arrived. They came to here to foster a fake relationship. Like, this person's 40, 50 years, they're junior, and they're talking about moving in and having relationships. Not only can they rob them from afar, they can come here physically.
There are real life people that will, yes.
They are threats. And remember here in Texas, once someone's inside that house, that mom and dad's house, mom passed away, so it's just dad. Once that imposter gets into that house, you will have multitude of problems. And you'll see it because the bank account gets drained. There's a reverse mortgage taken on the house. They're buying them vehicles. I consider, not all of them, of course, but I consider a lot of those to be very close to scams, and you need to watch for those lonely heart scams.
Yep, very true. And I think that's done by you maintaining a close relationship with that senior, because they're doing this because they're lonely. They're vulnerable and lonely. So they are missing that aspect in their life. And that can be you, that can be someone else or another relationship that you help them foster. But they need to fill that loneliness in some way. And they will do it with a bad actor if they've not been provided a better option. Sometimes we use here a trust as a tool. Because it removes the financial incentive. So say, for example, you have a male that's lost his spouse. They have active kids, but he's, continuously trying to meet women, meeting them online, other things. If he is willing, now this person has to be willing to do it, to set up a revocable trust for himself and place assets in the trust, a child can be the trustee. And that person can still manage their own day-to-day things if that's what you allow for, but it removes the ability to give large chunks of money, to deed away a house or other property. So if you are willing, sometimes that is a good middle step in between guardianship, where you remove that abilities person to make their own decisions, because they may not legally meet that requirement yet. They're just making bad decisions. But if they are willing to help go to the middle step of protecting assets, removing what makes them vulnerable, the financial incentive for a bad actor, then hopefully that can be some protection.
Multiple times where, and I'm picking on us guys because I'm a guy, so I can. Multiple times where I've had guys in my office, I've spoken to them alone, and it's very common for them to say, hey, you know what? I don't know what I've been doing. They're still your dad. They just need to get away from that environment. And they will come to the realization that hopefully will come to the realization they're making mistakes. And oftentimes they want to protect those assets even from themselves. It doesn't always happen that way, but it is something to explore. Absolutely.
And sometimes you're not going to be able to convince them that they're not in that relationship. So hopefully some protections can still be in place there. We don't want people to be unhappy or sheltered. We want them to live vibrant lives, but removing the incentive, which is always going to be financial, can really help sometimes. So romance scams is probably the biggest one that we see. Having openness and honest conversations, and being willing to share, and asking your parents to be willing to share with you is important, and then not overreacting. So if your dad tells you he's taking a date, You want to know
Right.
about what's happening. You're not going to be
Right.
overbearing. You're just like you do with a teenage kid. I want the information. I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to tell you what to do because you are an adult, but I am going to ask that you provide me information so that I can help craft a plan that will best protect you and you can make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so the other types of scams, right? So we did the imposter scams, we did the romance scams. The other ones are kind of, the lumped in category, but basically a lot of times it's either a knock on the door, right? These are not necessarily the sophisticated scams. These are the scamsters who are out hustling on foot. They're driving to the residence. They're knocking on the door. They're going to put the magic tar on the roof. They're going to do the magic driveway that never be fixed again. They're going to haul off that tree, or they're going to leave the tree in the way first.
They're going to get paid first.
They're going to get paid first, and they're going to take off, or they're going to come back for more and more money. They're going to be intimidating in person. They're going to be bullying their way in the door. These are the ones that are kind of scared to me because I'm always afraid. We have plenty of veterans who are a little bit older, but still dangerous. And as soon as they find out they're being scammed, there could be a confrontation. I mean, I've had some pretty tough veterans in my office who, people, once they realize they're being taken advantage of, things can get serious. And if you have an elderly, tough relative, I just worry about their health. I do.
Sure.
Those are the ones that scare me physically.
Door to door, yep. And then we just want to, again, just build a layer of protection. So if you have a senior parent who is living alone, maybe you encourage them not to answer the door and you have a Ring doorbell that you can answer.
Oh, please.
Right. So if we never answered the door, we probably never need to, right? I mean, that sounds a little rude to Girl Scouts and whatnot that are going through the neighborhood, but we really don't need to answer the door if I'm a senior living on my own. Now, building that into what your parent is willing to do and being willing to accept those protections. So maybe they do want to answer the door, but maybe we just work on saying, hey, I need to check with my daughter before I do anything. And then you're going to call and say, hey, is this a good deal or not, and let them handle it. So always build in a second set of eyes. You don't need to be the one making the decision. Unfortunately, that's just human nature. We don't want to do that. We don't want to ask for permission. But just helping realize that maybe we need that one extra layer to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Love those cameras. I love those doorbell cameras. Someone goes to the door, knocks on it. Your mom or dad are answering it, but guess what? You're going to get it too and say, okay, that's UPS, no problem.
Right.
Or who is this shifty person doing shifty things? I just think those cameras are so useful. It doesn't intrude upon your parents' privacy. It's shooting out into the yard. What a wonderful tool.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
love those.
And go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, so I love all those. To stay current on those, like here in town, Longview Police Department and the Sheriff's Department are always letting everyone know what the common problems are. Check out their Facebook pages. They're letting you know when fraudsters hit the area. I know there's been some attempts by the city to keep everyone safer as well. I'm just saying that information is out there. Oftentimes, it's not a one-time hit. Like, they didn't come to Longview just to get your grandpa. They came to Longview to get all of our grandpas. And so they will do neighborhoods at a time. They'll do blocks at a time. And that's where the neighborhood associations jump up. That's where your PAR officers here in town will start putting alerts out. If you go to Facebook, you'll see all sorts of information from LPD, from the city, from the county, from the sheriff. They're all saying, hey, watch out. They're faking us. They're impersonating them. There's no Secret Service agents in town. So that's a useful tool.
Yeah. And it is not a one-time fix. This is not a one and done.
Yeah.
I really would liken it to your teenage kid. You're worried about who their friends are and who they're spending time with, and you don't know that unless you are talking to mom and dad, and you're visiting mom and dad, and you're going to Sunday school with them, and you're going to the bank with them, and you're going to their financial advisor and to their doctor. You're doing those things with them because you want to be involved in their care and make sure that they trust you and have a relationship with you where they're going to ask you if they get into that situation, just like my teenage kids.
Right. And I guess that's one of my solutions, or one of our solutions we could do is, if some bad person is taking my dad to the bank, right? Dad can go to the bank and he's being scammed. I would love for that bank to know who my dad is, obviously. We have local banks, not a problem. Who I am, and then to have those power of attorneys on file. So if the bank has a question, maybe they'll say, hey, we have a trusted contact, we have a power of attorney. Just one moment. Give those local institutions a chance to protect your loved ones by setting these documents up in advance. If they know who you are and you've been involved in their lives for 15, 20 years, the bank's going to know your loved one by name. They're going to know their normal behavior. And I've had some great responses from local institutions saying, oh my gosh, it's great to see you. You want to do what? Okay, no problem. Just a minute. The computer takes time to process, and they're making a phone call. And 99 out of 100 times, it's not an issue. But when it's there, they've done some great jobs of helping people.
Right. Yep, exactly. And everything we talked about today is mostly an outside scam, right?
Yeah.
This is that bad actor out there in the universe figuring out how to come and take money from a loved one. These scams are primarily not reported. That's going to be because people are embarrassed. Sometimes they don't realize they've been scammed.
Yep.
So these are that nebulous world of bad actors out there. What unfortunately is the reported senior abuse that we know is an over $3 billion industry is 90% family. So we will talk about that in a future show, how to protect yourself from that. But that is another avenue that we need to talk about and think about, how to protect ourselves from bad actors that may exist in our family or just that are willing to take advantage of our vulnerability. But we'll talk about that in a future show. And anything else you want to add?
No, thanks, y'all.
Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.